Hello, my name is HQ of ITSMYRACEX. Welcome to my channel. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button, share the stream, and click the notification button for new content. Thank you.
Hey. Y'all was on earlier with me. JD Vance puts me to sleep. I am so sorry. I apologize for the group. But I had no plans. I had no intention of doing any kind of content with JD Vance. Because I think he's a smarmy liar. So whenever I get on, he's just boring and he's smarmy, and I can tell when he lies. He's just that type person, right? So I had no intention of being on with JD Vance. And so it just absolutely put me to sleep. And I was out of there. I sure was. Didn't mean to be, but I was, right? So it is what it is. But this was the natural content that I wanted to do today. The natural content I do today. Things are happening, and this administration is not telling us what's going on. Okay? This administration is at war right in our backyard, right off the coast of Florida, and they're not telling us about it. They disguised it as blowing up boats off the coast of the United States. They said they were boats coming from Venezuela. They were boats that were carrying drugs, and that was a cover. It was a cover. I think it may be a total of like 8 or 9 boats. All of these boats, none of them brought any proof back. There was one boat in which there were survivors. You notice that we hear nothing about those survivors coming to the United States to be tried as drug dealers, to be tried as anything. They have been released back to the Venezuelan people, and they were fishermen. These boats were just a ruse. These were just things that were to cover for the invasion. They had no proof. They didn't show anybody proof. It was just upon their say so. But listen to this. Just listen to it.
So we do have some breaking news that we're following here. Let's put up this post from Fox News saying, breaking, U.S. kills 14 alleged drug traffickers in strikes on 4 boats in Eastern Pacific. That's according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, as he did share a post to social media. I'm going to ask my producer, Julian, to pull that up for you right now. Let's read this out to you in full. It says, yesterday, at the direction of President Trump, the Department of War carried out 3 lethal kinetic strikes on 4 vessels operated by designated terrorist organizations trafficking narcotics in the Eastern Pacific. The 4 vessels were known by our intelligence apparatus, transiting along known narco trafficking routes and carrying narcotics. 8 male narco-terrorists were aboard the vessels during the first strike. 4 male narco-terrorists were aboard the vessel during the second strike. 3 male narco-terrorists were aboard the vessel during the third strike. A total of 14 narco-terrorists were killed during the 3 strikes, with 1 survivor.
My question is this. Why didn't you bring them back to the United States? Why didn't you haul the boats in and then bring those people back to be tried as criminals. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't we cover anything? Why didn't we retrieve anything from the boat? 2 people survived. If 2 people survived, why wouldn't some evidence have survived as well to show that there were drugs on the boat? Because they weren't drugs on the boat. This was a ruse.
Strikes were in international waters with no U.S. forces harmed.
This morning, the Trump administration announced that they have blown up 4 additional boats that they claim were carrying illegal substances, taking the lives of 14 civilians and leaving 1 survivor. In other news, Donald Trump's media company is launching a prediction market so that we can all bet on when he's going to start war with Venezuela. Is this what you voted for? It certainly isn't what I voted for.
The name of my great-grandfather, who was an admiral. You don't send your biggest, baddest ship of the fleet to go after some pirates, especially in waters or for nations who aren't asking for it whatsoever. This is not honorable. Ships match their class when you go to war, and they're not kidding when they say most lethal combat platform. As the BBC put it, largest warship in the world is deployed, and none of these countries are happy about the fabricated reasons for sending it. And yeah, this warship, it is a floating war.
I asked this previously. Why would you send your biggest warship just for drug dealers off the coast of Venezuela? You wouldn't do that. I know that I said this in a previous panel. You wouldn't do that because you're not sending them because they're drug dealers. You're sending it because you have other nefarious ideas. And those ideas are to invade Venezuela, right?
It can launch 160 aircraft a day for 30 days straight. This thing can end wars before they ever begin. It's so overkill for the Caribbean. Why is Trump doing this? This is how punks fight, not commanders-in-chief.
14% of the Navy's fleet is now in the Caribbean, according to IEJ Media, including a buildup of 10,000 Marines and sailors, a dozen warships, a nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, a special operations mothership with drone capabilities, 3 guided missile destroyers, and the USS Iwo Jima, with an amphibious ready group on board. The USS Lake Erie, a guided missile cruiser with 32 Tomahawk missiles, was pulled from the Pacific and is now focusing on Venezuela, where the U.S. sent 3 B-52s escorted by stealth F-35s on a show-of-force mission. 10 F-35s have been based in Puerto Rico since September 13th. Live fire and flight operations across the Caribbean have made the buildup look far bigger than a counter-narcotics push, yet not big enough for an invasion.
Well, they don't need that many planes. They don't need that many invasion tools. They don't need that many ships because Venezuela is not going to dare to fight back. Venezuela is going... See, the thing is to get Maduro out of power. They tried to get him out of power in 2017 or 18, and I'm not sure. I think it may have been 18. They tried to get him out of power then. Trump tried to get him out of power, and he wouldn't, and they installed another guy into it, but the other guy couldn't automatically get him overthrown. So he wasn't strong enough to get him overthrown. So now Trump is going in there now to get that oil. He don't care about those drugs. He never did. It's not about drugs. It's about the oil that they have underneath, which they have the largest reserve, even bigger than the Arabian oil reserves. They have one of the biggest oil reserves on the planet. So Trump is going there to get the oil.
Focus appears to be disputed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and now Colombia's president Gustavo Petro.
He's a lunatic who's got a lot of problems, mental problems.
President Petro called President Trump rude and ignorant.
Humanity has a first option to change Trump. If not, remove Trump.
7 U.S. airstrikes against small boats the Pentagon said were carrying narcotics have killed at least 32 people, whose identities the Pentagon has not released. In at least one case, Colombia's president said one of those killed, Alejandro Carranza, was a fisherman.
When you kill someone, you should know, if you're not at war, not in a declared war, you really need to know someone's name, at least. You have to accuse them of something. You have to present evidence. So all of these people have been blown up without us knowing their name, without any evidence of a crime.
Authorities in Ecuador have released the survivor of last week's U.S. military strike on a submersible that the U.S. government said was carrying fentanyl. 2 people were killed on board. A third was injured and returned to Colombia. But the Ecuadorian government says there is no evidence that the Ecuadorian man had committed a crime.
A U.S. aircraft carrier just entered the Caribbean, and nobody's talking about why. The Pentagon, they say it's for anti-drug operations. But this kind of deployment usually means something bigger is going on. Strategy, influence, quiet diplomacy, big ships usually mean big stories. What do you think's behind the move?
Because he's going to war. It's an international maritime law. Okay, it's an international maritime, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which most countries, include Venezuela, follow. So he's over there, hopefully, supposedly, he calls himself not violating that law. But let's see.
Thousands of U.S. troops mobilized in the Caribbean. Elite night-flying helicopter teams hovering just off a neighboring country's coast. Heavy strategic bombers thunder overhead. Meanwhile, warships patrol the sea, and all of it very close to Venezuela. Why? Because right now, the U.S. appears to be readying for a major operation, and that matters. Stay with me, because what we're seeing could reshape global theater, and your world far more than you might think. What's happening in the Caribbean today is not just another military maneuver. For the first time in years, the United States has concentrated a massive force right on the doorstep of South America. It's the kind of move that makes every government in the region quietly nervous, and every analyst pay attention. The deployment includes around 10,000 U.S. soldiers spread across ships and bases in the Caribbean. Among them are members of the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the famous Night Stalkers. They're the ones who fly the missions nobody else can. They specialize in night operations, flying low, fast, and silent. Their helicopters move like ghosts, hugging the waves, vanishing behind terrain, appearing only where they need to be, then disappearing again. When the Night Stalkers arrive in a region, it usually means preparation for something precise, coordinated, and possibly imminent. Reports suggest their aircraft have been seen moving between naval platforms and temporary landing zones on small Caribbean islands. These are not random flights. They're rehearsals, tests, and readiness checks. Each flight sharpens the timing, the coordination, and the familiarity with the terrain. If an operation were to begin, these are the pilots who would be first in, and often the last to leave.
Hey.
The U.S. is escalating things even further in the Caribbean, as it was just announced that the U.S. military will be sending the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group to the Caribbean. The order has just gotten out today. So here are the key parts. The carrier group, which is currently in the Mediterranean, has been under the direction of Pete Hegseth in the U.S. Department of Defense, and now they're being told to deploy to Latin America, specifically the Caribbean Sea. The main mission of this crew is to bolster the U.S. capability to detect, monitor, and disrupt transnational criminal organizations in narcotic trafficking. This, of course, comes at a time in which Donald Trump, in a way, but not really, kind of said that he was going to declare war on Venezuela. This, of course, is very concerning for Latin American countries who've already said, hey, are they sure they're only doing this for Venezuela, or is there like something else going on here? This is the most significant movement of U.S. military or Navy in the Western Hemisphere in a couple of decades. Now we have to see what happens next. It's going to be.
But y'all don't understand. Donald Trump and this leader of Venezuela tangled back in 2018-19. They tangled with each other back then. Donald Trump wanted to put him out of power back then, and whoever Donald Trump sent in to take over the power couldn't do it. A short name, Chasie. I can't remember what the name is, but he sent them in, or he supported him, and that guy couldn't overthrow Meduso. This was in 2018, 2019, right? So Donald Trump, who's very good at carrying grudges with his petty motherfucking ass, this is the petty grudge that he has against Meduso, on top of the fact that Venezuela has one of the largest oil reserves in the world, even bigger than the Arab countries. So as long as he has this petty grudge against Meduso, and he has the opportunity to take Meduso out, this is what he's going to do. So you don't send this much firepower for fishermen on boats, okay? He just don't. You just don't. It's just overkill, and this is what he's doing. He is sending in warships because he's about to attack Venezuela, or he did attack Venezuela. I don't know whether it was yesterday or today, but
quite some time before the strike group does get in place. How are other countries going to react to this? I'll be sure to let you know, so please do share my videos and follow me for more.
So the United States just deployed a carrier strike group to the Caribbean to stop the flow of drugs, target the cartels, and maybe expand military operations into Venezuela. Oh, and the possibility of putting U.S. boots on the ground? Kind of avoiding that question right now. So, yeah, you could say things are getting kind of serious down there. Now, starting out with the announcement made just a few hours ago by the Pentagon that the Ford Carrier Strike Group is heading to the Caribbean, not just any carrier, but the largest and most advanced carrier in the U.S. military. Sean Parnell, Pentagon spokesperson, said, quote, "In support of the president's directive to dismantle transnational criminal organizations and counter narco-terrorism in defense of the homeland, the Secretary of War has directed the Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and embarked Carrier Air Wing to the U.S. Southern Command Area of Responsibility. The enhanced U.S. force presence in the SOUTHCOM AOR will bolster U.S. capacity to detect, monitor, and disrupt illicit actors and activities that compromise the safety and prosperity of the United States homeland and our security in the Western Hemisphere." Now, a couple key notes here. This is the Carrier Strike Group. It is not just the carrier and associated air wing. It's yet to be determined or made public exactly what assets are moving to the Caribbean. USNI reported earlier today that the Ford was just spotted in port in Split, Croatia, saying they arrived there on Wednesday. So they expect that it would take at least 1 week for the carrier and the associated vessels to cross the Atlantic and get to the Caribbean. They also stress that it's not clear exactly what other ships will be joining the Ford. Now, the Ford Carrier Strike Group is made up of a number of vessels. We, of course, have the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, Carrier Air Wing 8, which is made up of squadrons of FA-18 fighter jets, EA-18 Growlers, and other support aircraft, Destroyer Squadron 2, which is made up of several guided missile destroyers, such as the USS Bainbridge, USS Mahan, USS Mitscher, and USS Forrest Sherman, and then a couple of guided missile cruisers like the USS Normandy and USS Winston Churchill. That's a lot of firepower.
yes, that's a hell of a lot of firepower just for trafficking, right? Just for trafficking. But according to the Biden administration, they had already escalated their efforts to produce and distribute drugs. So it had become more of a hardened country in which they had to find and destroy all the cartels that were coming out of Venezuela and maybe some of the surrounding countries where we didn't know. So the administration, somebody said something about a bounty. Yeah, I think it was initially 25 million. Then they raised it to 50 million because it had evolved beyond trafficking. It had evolved beyond boats and whatnot and into an armed cartel style operation. So the reward was high for Maduro. But they never did get him, and he still stayed in the power. But you know Trump got to go and get him. So this is what he's doing, even though he hasn't told us. And I don't see, that's the thing. Is it against the law for what Trump is doing? Is it against the law? What is his argument?
It's a lot to take on drug trafficking, a lot to take on cartels, which of course raises the question of, are we actually going to do something with Venezuela? Now, Fox News had a great breakdown, I think, of the current firepower we are massing in the Caribbean. This was put together by Jennifer Griffin, their Pentagon correspondent. Here we go.
Well, John, the Pentagon has been reallocating assets from the Middle East and Pacific, moving warships to the Caribbean since August in what looks like a major military buildup for what many fear is an undeclared war. Just moments ago, the Pentagon announced that it is sending the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group to the Southern Command region to help with counter-narcotics efforts. The Ford strike group right now is currently in the...
All right, so you're telling me we got 9 Venezuelan boats down, we got 10,000 troops in the Caribbean, 10 warships, a nuclear submarine, some other stuff. Now we're threatening land strikes in Venezuela, and the CIA is already down there ready to do lethal operations. What are we doing? What's happening?
We going to war. There's war in Venezuela. Okay, reports say the U.S. is bombing Venezuela right now as we speak. So we are in an undeclared war. And the government's justification was, I don't know how they justify it. Okay. Counter the narco-terrorism angle. So it's a narco-terrorism angle, okay? Donald Trump says the Venezuela or vessels departing Venezuela are being used for large-scale drug trafficking into the United States. And this constitutes a serious threat to the American lives. Okay? It also designated the cartel to that country and other groups as terrorists or special designated global terrorists, arguing that they operate with support or tolerance from Medusa. And they consider it self-defense. Trump says that drug trafficking or narcotics flows threaten the U.S. national security and public interest. So they have a right and they have a duty to the people in order to stop them. Okay, and they argue that it's an ongoing armed attack from Venezuela. Although maybe that might be the case. But you guys have shown us no proof. We don't have any kind of proof that such a thing is happening. Even though Biden had put a bounty on top of Medusa's head, saying he was growing and he was being an ever-evolving cartel organization, a leader of a cartel organization, we still we haven't shown any proof to Congress in order to go to war. So is it a legal thing that they're going to war? They also accused Maduro of human rights abuses. You know, election irregularities. Remember, he got elected in 2018, and it wasn't a legal thing. So they're saying he's an illegitimate leader of the country. And so since Biden never took care of it and Biden never thought it was a priority, although he put a $25 billion or $1 million bounty on his head, then a $50 million bounty on his head, he didn't feel the need to go and invade the country. So here's the thing. There's a clear lack of evidence, clear lack of transparency. Okay. They haven't presented, the Trump administration hasn't presented a full-fledged criteria of evidence that these vessels that they struck were definitely engaging in criminal activity or drug trafficking, or that they presented an imminent threat. Some of these strikes occurred in international waters, okay, near Venezuelan waters, without clear permission from Venezuela or the United States. United Nations mandate. So it raises questions whether it was under international law. Okay, and under American law, under U.S. law, the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war or authorize the use of military force. So some lawmakers, Rand Paul, says the president's actions lack the authority and thus may be unconstitutional. Okay. The strikes, according to him, do not meet the threshold of an armed attack against the U.S. to justify self-defense, making the legal basis weak. Okay. And these strikes may breach the sovereignty of Venezuela and violate the prohibition on use of force under the United Nations Charter and other maritime laws if proper self-defense or consent is lacking. So, yes, the U.S. has some grounds for the action. I get all of that. You know, counterterrorism, narcoism, all that kind of stuff, national security, claims of Venezuelan complicity, but the legal and fact-based justification is contested and very, very weak. International bodies believe in the U.S. justification does not fully satisfy the threshold of lawfully using force. So, some people just don't believe him. But here we are.
According to Trident on X, it looks like the United States is currently bombing Venezuela, so it looks like we're going to war, y'all.
Going to war, we're at war.
Of course we're going to invade Venezuela. Why wouldn't we? Venezuela's only ally is China. China's not going to do anything. China only cares about their neighboring countries like Taiwan and North Korea. That's why they built a wall, to keep the world out, because they don't care about the world. They only care about their immediate neighboring partners. Unlike Cuba, where their ally is Russia, and we know Russia's nutty, especially ever since Yeltsin left and he appointed Putin. And that's why you need democracies to vote in your top leadership.
Yeah, they do, Black America. They very much do. They have to follow the international laws under maritime and the UN Council's laws. They can't just kill people because you have no proof. And the people that they have shot down have got the ones that survived. 2 people survived. They were just regular, ordinary fishing people, regular, ordinary fishing boats. So they can't back themselves out of this.
For military, because otherwise you end up with nutty people in control that they aren't. Nobody understands that they shouldn't be in control. A whole military there, and that's the sad part. Putin is using all of his kid troops for cannon fodder. If you don't know that over there. There's some like a 10-to-1 death rate of Russians against Ukrainians because of all the modern drone warfare, AI drone warfare. It's a slaughter. They don't even stand a chance. I'm surprised Putin hasn't tapped into all the refugees coming from Cuba. But so when you get these political refugees, when you get like a war with Ukraine and the political refugees leave to go to the neighboring countries in Europe, they're allowed to stay there until the war ends. You know, the women, the children, the elderly, whatever. And then when it ends, they'll go back. And that's saying most wars don't carry on forever. 4, 5, 10 years at the most. You get dictatorship regimes like you have in Cuba and Venezuela. They never change. How long was Castro in power? 50, 60 years? And then when he died, his brother took over. And then when he died, he appointed, that's saying they didn't democratize and vote what the people wanted in. And when your term limit is up, the whole military understands that and you will be forced out. That's kind of everybody's so worried like, oh, Trump is going to be in. You really think anybody in that military is going to let that guy stay in for more than the 4 years? Or anybody. It doesn't matter who. He could be the greatest. He could be Obama squared. You think they're going to let him stay in past his term limit? Anyways, the problem with Venezuelan refugees is when they come, they're not like Latin American refugees or Latin American undocumented immigrants who want to come and work and make a hard living and make that money. Venezuelan citizens, ever since the 60s, 70s, were brought up to live on the government. That's how their society, their socialist society. Gimme, 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 I get everything. And then they come to America and they get free hotels and free food. And then their kids, when they don't get enough free stuff, they're attacking police officers in New York. And that's why I was telling people back when the Democrats didn't stand a chance. Even with the Republican states shuttling these Venezuelans to Democratic states, the Democrats could have done better by putting them in smaller towns or towns where it was much more affordable to house and feed them, not in $100 a night, $200 a night motel rooms in New York City at the people's expense. Anyhow, yeah, I expect a full ground invasion of Venezuela. You don't put all these troops down there for nothing, for show, before the end of the year, if not early part of next year. And as soon as Russia totally falls apart because they don't have any more ground fodder, yeah, we'll probably invade Cuba too and get rid of that regime. Comment, like, share, subscribe.
Oh, sorry. So what is maritime? They're using these laws in order to attack the country. Maritime law, okay? And they say it's a branch of the international humanitarian law, right? The same body of law that governs conduct in wartime. Sets the rules on how people can use armed force at sea, how you protect civilians at sea, blockades, captures, attacks, and you limit the damage of non-combatants while you're out there. It's derived mainly from the UN Charter in 1945, and it defines when nations can legally use force. Okay. Yes. He's stationing himself to attack Venezuela. You notice how we haven't heard the TV and everything is not full of wartime in Caribbean. This is right in our backyard. This war ship, this war. Let me see. Let me show you. Wait a minute. A map of Caribbean. It's right in our backyard, right? So most people, they think of something is somewhere else. It's right here where we can, people can see it, and we're right. We're right. I said we ain't even that far from it. It ain't even that far from Florida coast. It really ain't. If you really think about it, let me put it on the screen. Okay, hopefully we can see a little bit of it. I know we can't get it bigger. Okay. But if you can see the arrow, you can see where I'm pointing. This is Florida. We got the yellow right here, Florida. This is where we're stationed. We are stationed with our boats and everything. Right here. This is Florida, Cuba. I can't see Dominican Republic, Montego Bay. No, not Montego Bay. Puerto Rico, right here. So we are Puerto Rico is our territory. So we're stationed right here somewhere. All of our ships, right there, off the coast. Okay, and he's starting a war over there to get the oil, just to get the oil. Okay. And I get it. Okay, fine and dandy. You want to get the oil and you want to do what you got to do. But here's the thing. You haven't declared war and you haven't told Congress, and Congress has not approved you having war. Okay? Congress has not approved anything when it comes to war, and they're supposed to. But the president is doing what he wants to do. And most people say, oh, well, maybe he is, maybe he's not. But see, here's the thing. No, he's not. Because Rand Paul saying, no, dude, you're doing something wrong. No, dude, you're attacking someplace and you're not supposed to be attacking them. We haven't approved it. So you shouldn't be attacking any person. Okay? and it's under the UN Charter, which defines the nations where the nations can use legal force. When a war legally exists at sea, a declared war or recognized armed conflict, both sides officially recognize the hostilities. We haven't went to Congress and said anything, so we don't have any right to be over there starting conflict. An armed attack at sea, which is what the president did, is a vessel or military unit which is attacked, triggering the right of self-defense. Which one is doing the attacking? Is the president attacking Venezuela, or is Venezuela going to fight back? Okay. So far, he's off the coast. And he's flying above Venezuela. So that's as far as I know that we've gotten. I haven't heard of anything beyond that. They don't have any pictures online that says that he has attacked anybody, that he has actually went in. But boots on the ground will be next. The boots on the ground. Because they have to get rid of Maduro. They have to get rid of Maduro. That's the whole point. Get rid of Maduro. Be in charge of the oil. Once they get in charge of the oil, now they have an opportunity to, they're going to open that wide up and people are going to get rich, specifically Trump's cronies and friends and the United States. So this is what's happening over there now. Just a heads up that we need to be waiting for that announcement. That announcement will be happening soon enough that we are at war or soft war. Like, remember, we went to war we had a soft war with Iraq or Iran. We went over there and attacked Iran, and Iran just said, forget it. I ain't finna do jack shit. I ain't finna attack America. It's basically the same thing. He knows that he doesn't have enough firepower, this Maduro. He knows he can't attack the United States unless he's going to destroy his country, right? So he's either going to get out of power or he's going to do whatever he got to do. But I believe he'll just leave the power, and then the United States will install whomever they want to take over, so that it will be for the benefit of the United States. And hopefully they turn that country into a better country. I don't know. We don't have a good track record of turning places into good countries after we've invaded them, right? I.e. Afghanistan. So that's the hope, that when they do decide they're going to put boots on the ground, you put boots on the ground for the benefit of that country and not just for the benefit of the invading country. But we don't know. We don't know what plans they got, because we really didn't even know we were going to be going to war with Venezuela, okay? We didn't even know we were going to do that. So now we know that we're going to do that. See, the president said he was targeting drug trafficking vessels, okay, tied to the narco terrorism. But Venezuela keeps saying the U.S. is acting without a declared war or UN approval or self-defense justification, meaning the strikes that United States have been doing violate the maritime war law. If those boats were not proven combatants, and we don't have any kind of proof that they were, cartel boats or regular boats. We don't have any proof as to what any of those things were. Any of those boats were. If those boats were not proven combatants, then attacking those combatants breaches the principles of distinction and necessity when it comes to maritime war. So if civilians or neutral nationals were killed, and I think they were because they got 2 people off and they were just regular old fishermen, the United States could face claims under international humanitarian and maritime law that you violated those. Who violates those things? It's the International Criminal Court. That same court that has held Netanyahu, held his feet to the fire. That same court that does that for war crimes at sea, unlawful attacks against civilians. Okay. So it will be the ICC that holds him accountable for that. Okay. But in practice, most powerful nations avoid punishment because Benjamin Netanyahu, they haven't caught up with him and they haven't tried to put him in chains or handcuffs unless there's some global pressure. Donald Trump will never face any kind of repercussions for what he is doing. Okay. So the plain law of maritime says you can fight at sea if there's a real war or clear self-defense, but you can't just blow up ships in international waters because you suspect something. You just can't do that. You must prove the necessity, distinguish those targets, and minimize harm. And did Donald Trump do that? We don't know. Okay. We don't know. Okay. And the justification, they called it counter-narco terrorism. They said Venezuelan territory, the vessels that came out of Venezuela are being used for large-scale drug paraphernalia or drug distribution into the United States. And this constitutes a serious threat to the American lives. According to Rand Paul, who is a senator, he said that's a lie. And even if it's not a lie, Donald Trump should have came to us and told us this is what he was doing. And Donald Trump didn't come to you and tell you what you were doing. So since he didn't come to you and tell you what he was doing, and you all were the ones who were supposed to give the okay for you all were supposed to get the okay to go to war, then Donald Trump could be considered a war criminal. According to some. We don't know. Here's the thing. Let's see what's going on first. Let's see if someone calls him out about what he's doing. If they call him out about what he's doing, then maybe we'll believe him. Okay? Maybe we'll believe him. And he has a defense and they show us what's going on, then maybe we'll believe them. But for now, we can't believe what they're talking about. We cannot believe what they're talking about. Hold on, I got another one. Hold on. Let's hope this is something new. I don't know whether I played. Did I play?
The United States is now preparing for a full-scale attack on Venezuela. U.S. warships have been deployed across the Caribbean Sea, with intense military exercises taking place in Tobago. Reports also confirm that American forces have begun striking Venezuelan boats, and officials are now openly discussing plans for a ground invasion. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly stated that he wants peace, not war. He's even made direct appeals to American citizens, urging them to pressure their government to avoid conflict. Despite his efforts, Washington continues to emphasize military action, citing the need for regime change and claiming that Maduro's leadership is illegitimate. At the heart of the tension is Venezuela's vast oil reserves, among the largest in the world. In a bid to promote peace, Maduro even launched a YouTube channel to communicate his message directly to the American people. However, that account was recently removed, and now the United States has announced plans to fully invade Venezuela within the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Now, what is Rand Paul's problem with this? Rand Paul, who is the senator from Kentucky, I think. I'm not sure. What has been he's been on the news lately saying, I think you're invading something, or you're doing something wrong, or you don't have the right to do what you're doing. Rand Paul's concern or problem is due process of law and the rule of law. Remember we were talking about rule of law earlier this year and due process? Okay. President on YouTube. Yeah, it is wild, ain't it? Due process and rule of law. Rand Paul argues that many of the strikes carried out by the United States on these drug trafficking boats have no publicly disclosed evidence, which is true because we don't see any. It shows that those targets were identified by name, formally charged, or sentenced. They must be done like that. It must be, if you kill someone, you should know someone's name at least. All of these people have been blown up without us knowing their name, without any evidence of a crime, which is the problem that I have. Okay. And there's danger in moving law enforcement to military strikes without the same legal safeguards. Okay. So he's overstepped his presidential powers, and he's went past congressional oversight. Okay. Rand Paul is concerned that they're not getting their due process, and the fact that he thinks the president has overstepped his war powers, and he's forgotten about congressional oversight. They're using lethal force in international waters beyond national territory without an explicit declaration of war or clear authorization from Congress, which is what you're supposed to do. Okay. This sets a precedent of the executive unilateralism, which means the president doesn't have to ask someone to start a war. He has to ask them to start a war. He's inching up to the line. He's inching up to the line without asking to go to war, but he should have asked to go to war. Okay. That's the whole point. Okay. And he says there's no scope, there's no time frame, and we don't know what we're being committed to do. According to Paul, okay, the mission has not been stated as to what we are committing ourselves to. The nature of the operation suggests a broader, riskier foreign policy a narrative or foreign policy objective. Yes, so this is where we are. That's why we see Rand Paul on TV now beating the drum saying he gonna start a war, y'all. We gonna have a war right in our backyard, right off the coast of Puerto Rico. Okay. Rand Paul doesn't believe the justifications that the administration is giving. Okay. He questions whether the boats were definitely headed to the United States. We don't know whether they were heading to the United States. We don't know whether they had drugs on board. Nobody did any kind of due process. You just decided you were going to break everybody off that was on the boat. That's not how that's done. That's not how it's supposed to be done. Okay. And Paul also said, is this the best uses for our military? Maybe Rand Paul hasn't thought of the bigger picture of getting the oil. Because the oil is the goal. The oil is the goal. Okay. And that's his whole priority, is to get him out of power and to get the oil out on boat in the ocean, and the Coast Guard tried to stop you. Hell no. What does that mean? It don't matter whether they did or not. They don't just blow me up and they don't just put me out of the water. They don't just take my life because they feel like taking my life. Okay. Yes, oil is the goal. Nobody's going over there for that. They trying to put Maduro out of power and to have the rights for the oil. That's the whole goal. They don't care about the drugs. That's just an excuse to be able to, because everybody gets emotional. Everybody gets emotional when you hear about, oh, they bringing drugs to the United States. Oh, hey, they bringing drugs over here. We need to stop them from bringing drugs over here. You have no idea whether they were coming to the United States with drugs or not. You have no idea, because we didn't do process. They didn't have due process. So you don't know what they were doing. Okay. They didn't give us an opportunity to arrest these people and to find out what they were doing. Now they've sent in all of this huge firepower just for some drugs. I don't think so. They sent in this huge firepower to make sure it was a show of force. We don't know whether they were bringing drugs or not. That was just that was a ruse. That was a cover story so we could go over there and knock Maduro out of his power, install somebody in the power in that power structure who can be able to disperse the oil. Because now Venezuela does business with China, Russia. They do business with some other people. They do oil business because somebody took it public. Somebody took their oil public. I think it was Meduso. Anyway, so other people have the benefit of the oil. Either Putin or China or somebody has benefits of the oil now. United States wants to get a hold of that country to get control of that oil and throw Maduro out of power. Okay. And the whole point is they're saying if the strikes are considered lawful without congressional approval or clear evidence, it could broaden the executive branch's ability to use force beyond broader than the controls that it already has. The CIA don't just blow up shit. Yes, they do. Where you been? How old are you? 20 years? Are you 21 or something? Because how you done? Do you honestly believe people don't shoot, that the United States don't shoot stuff out of the air because they have to? Are you, what? The CIA don't just blow up ships. Are you serious? Don't come over here and say no shit like that. Come on. That don't even make no sense. You really hate Trump that much. Are you crazy, Black America? Are you crazy? What did I say that was out of whack? Are you crazy? Are y'all crazy? What the hell is wrong with y'all? What the hell is wrong with you? You got senators saying that the president is unlawful in what he's doing, and you asking me, am I crazy? You asking me, do I hate them? I'm repeating what the news. I ain't making this shit up. What do you mean? He has to go through Congress, and he hasn't done that in order to declare war on Venezuela. What part of that ain't true? Where is the evidence that says these are drug boats? Not one person has shown us evidence that those were drug boats. Not one person. They blew the boats up, so we can't tell. We can't tell. I swear to God, Brian, I don't know what the hell is going on. They seem to think that the president can just blow up whatever he want to blow up because he say he want to blow it up. Okay. Are you crazy? Of course they gonna lie. Of course the president is lying. You think he honest? Come on. Y'all, but come on, get into the game, Black America. Come on now. Come on. Rand Paul, several senators have said, he said he can do whatever he wants. That's the whole point. The whole point is he can't do what he wants. That's what Rand Paul is saying to him. Okay. No, he said they have evidence. They ain't shown no evidence. Ain't nobody shown no evidence. Ain't no proof that wait a minute, hold up. Are you wild? Are y'all wild? You think the president ain't supposed to show? It's called due process. I just told you that's what Rand Paul said. You have to show us evidence that there was drugs on the boat. Donald Trump has not shown Congress evidence that there's drugs on the boat. That's what I'm trying to say. He has not shown Congress evidence. Thus, we don't have any evidence. Thus, we don't know whether what he's saying is true or not. Y'all act like Donald Trump don't lie. Donald Trump breathe and Donald Trump lie. Okay? The legal precedent is he has to tell Congress what is going on. Okay? He has to tell Congress. According to Rand Paul, he hasn't shown Congress anything. And he has to. Okay? 2, he lies, especially him. He lies, especially him. So the United States has a long advocated rule of law, human rights, due process internationally. Rand Paul argues that by sidestepping due process and human right laws, the U.S. is weakening its standing in the world. You have to show that to the Congress. You have to show it to Congress, Black America. You have to show it to Congress. You have to show it to Congress. You have to show it to Congress. How many times we got to say that? That's the whole point. You have to show evidence and convince Congress. You have to convince Congress that you have to go to war. That's the whole point. Wow. We don't know any of that. And you're a zombie, Lloyd. Shut up. You're a zombie. So, Paul represents a faction of the GOP. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What are you talking about? Okay. I'm not arguing with y'all. Shut up. You want to say something to me and you want me to read it, put it in super chat. Because y'all don't make no sense. Read the goddamn laws. Y'all shouting out shit just to be shouting out shit. Don't know jack shit. What is the if the person if the president can that don't even make no sense. That don't even make no sense. He could just go and kill whoever he want to kill without letting anybody know. You can't do that. It's called due process of law. All people have to have the right of due process. And the UN, the International Maritime, you also have to have due process. Wow. This is wild. This is wild. No, you're spreading misinformation. You're talking crazy. You're saying the president doesn't have to tell anybody anything. You're crazy. But his problem is not just the opposition to raise to the to what he's doing. They also have that bounty that still Rand Paul still is talking about that $50 million bounty. He says there's a lack of transparency and evidence for the strikes. The senators have gotten together and written a memo, and the memo says there is a lack of transparency and evidence for those strikes. The absence of due process protection of those who have been targeted. And he has bypassed congressional war powers. Those are the three things. Those are the things that Rand Paul is saying that the president has done. Okay. You have to be transparent, and the evidence has to be shown. Okay. The evidence has to be shown. There's an absence of due process, and he is bypassing congressional war powers. Those are the things that Rand Paul, the senator, said is in violation. So, first of all, you need to think about the answer that you gave me, and then you need to think whether he's done any of those things. Then you'll know if the stuff he's done is illegal. Okay? And the whole point is to go and look at Rand Paul's him being on TV for the past 2 or 3 days. He's been on TV the past 2 or 3 days saying the president is overstepping his bounds. Now, I know for a fact that you guys ain't standing here trying to say, or you're not trying to say that you know more than a senator, a sitting senator does about him breaking laws. I hope you're not trying to tell me that you know better than they do. We just heard of boats being blown up. Do y'all just listen to everything? Do y'all take everything at face value? Or do you be looking behind the scenes at stuff? Do you look and we ain't seen nobody wait a minute, hold on. How is it that the two people who survived the blown up boats ain't over here going to prison? There's 2 survivors. Why they ain't going to prison? They ain't going to prison because they over there in Venezuela going home because they were fishing dudes. They weren't drug guys. Because they had to let them go because the Trump administration knew they weren't drug dealers. They were regular, everyday fishermen. Wow. Y'all got to stop listening to just what you're told. I always tell you, don't believe everything I say. Go check it out for yourself. But don't come over here telling me I don't know what I'm talking about and you ain't did no research. And the only thing you did was hear it on TV. That's my whole point, dumbass Sharon. Dumbass Sharon. That's my whole point, dumbass Sharon. Didn't I tell you to do your own research, dumbass Sharon? Stop telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, and you know you don't know what you're talking about. It don't matter whether he was an eye doctor. He was smart enough to be a doctor. The president has to go through the Congress, and he has to show proof that we need to go to war. Okay? He can't just blow people up. That's not how that works. That's all I'm saying. That's not how that works. And just because you like the president don't mean he's a know-all and be-all. Okay? He's not the know-all and be-all. Now, he's going to get the oil. That's what he's going to do. He's going to get the oil. And if that's the case, then that's the case. Be that as it may. If that's what he's going to do, have at it. But you do it the right way. You do it the legal way. Okay? You do it the legal way. Okay? You don't just do what you want to do. And he hasn't presented his case to the United States. But now we have them circled. We have Venezuela circled. We are off the coast of Venezuela, past the shoreline, past the 13 miles, nautical miles. So he's just waiting. He's just waiting to attack Venezuela. Yes, Obama did the same thing. Did I say anything about Obama? Did I say anything about him doing everything the legal way? Why are we bringing up Obama, Maria Santos? We're talking about Trump. Obama is not the president anymore. We're talking about Trump. Stay focused. Okay. Maybe impoverished fishermen to get on there and do drug boats. But I still come back to the one thing. If those two people were shot in the boat and they survived the boat, why ain't they over here going to trial? If they're drug dealers, why ain't they going to trial over here in the United States against the United States? Because nobody has proof that they are, because they were regular, ordinary fishermen. And they got caught up in this bullshit with the president. I'm not saying every boat that he blew up was not a drug boat, but it's probably some boats he just blew up anyway. And even if he blew those boats up, thinking there was drugs on them, he still should not have done that because it was against the law. It was against international law because you have to have evidence. Okay. They going to court in Venezuela? I ain't heard of that. If I can't, wait a minute, hold on. If I came from Venezuela and I was a drug dealer and then I was on the boat and you blew me up saying I was a drug dealer, why wouldn't you take me to your country and then try me as a drug dealer? Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you take me and torture me and find out who I was and find out what I knew and did all that? But he's not. Those guys are on their way back to Venezuela because they weren't drug dealers. They were regular, ordinary fishermen. Y'all need to get into the game for real. Don't believe everything you freaking hear. Do research. It can be in international waters all you want. You can't go into international waters and kill people. Pat Yeager, zombie, get into the game. You can't just go to international. You just can't go nowhere and just kill people. You have to. That's called declaring war. You have to have reasons in order to do it. He said it was because they had drugs. Now, you said there were drugs. Show me the drugs. Show me the drugs, sir. You blew the drugs out of, you blew the people out of the water. You show me the drugs that you found on the boats. Show me. Okay. You have to show me. You can't just come over here and break. Y'all wild. Y'all goofy. I ain't trying to convince you of nothing. Live in the bubble, okay? Live in that bubble. I don't live in that bubble. I know that's not how they do that shit. They are drug dealers. Are you weird? Are y'all weird? So anyway, they have increased their military presence and intelligent operations over there. So any day now, we're going to be invading that country in order to get that oil, to have control of that oil. Okay. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. What I am saying is, remember the conversation we had a couple days ago with the one guy who got on the phone with me and he said it's about that oil. He said it's about the oil, but it's about a bigger picture, an international consolidating the countries. All of us should be over here. That's true. I believe that's true. I believe that's part of it. And the drugs had nothing to do with it. The drugs were just a way to justify them going over there and having. Why would I go to war? Here's the question y'all need to ask yourself. Why would I go to war in somebody else's country? Because they got drug dealers. Because you got drug dealers. Why would I go to war with you because you got drug dealers? That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense at all. I can understand if they had they have tankers and tankers of drugs. They had a whole bunch of drugs coming off the, every day, every 2 days, every day they had multiple boats coming off they coast bringing drugs this way. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. We don't know that. We don't know what they were doing. They weren't turned around coming our way. Okay? That's wild. And they're not, I don't even think they're the ones doing the fentanyl. I think the fentanyl is coming from Canada. Most of that is coming from Canada. So if most of the fentanyl is coming from Canada, it don't pass the smell test. Y'all got to do more research on this. When y'all do more research, let me know, because I know they are off the coast of they are off the coast of Puerto Rico. They are off the coast of Venezuela. They are right there in the Caribbean. They are right there off the Caribbean. But you don't send your biggest military ship. You don't send those big military ships just for a small drug dealer, a drug dealing country. You just don't send that, because I don't know where we did it before. Did we do it before? Did we send a whole military fleet, damn near a whole military fleet, to another country because they were getting drugs off the they don't do that. We don't send fleets that big just to stop a drug dealer on a fishing boat. Get into the game, y'all. For fishing boats. Are you serious? We sent that huge military boat over there just to stop somebody in a fishing boat? Are you serious right now? Ooh, all right, y'all, stop it. Y'all gonna hurt my head. You're gonna hurt my head. I ain't gonna do it with y'all. Come on, you gotta start thinking. And they got submarine. That's right. They sent submarine over there too. What the hell? Just for some drugs on a fishing boat? Are you crazy? All I'm saying is, it's more than that. Okay. It's more than what it is going on. Yes, they want the leader out. He did not win the election. Biden put a $50 million bounty on his head. Okay. Biden put a $50 million bounty on his head, but Biden was too nice. Biden was just too nice. He should have got him out of there when he had a chance. Now Trump is getting him out of there. He needs to get out of there. They're going to get the oil. They're going to be able to disperse that oil. The oil right now is public. They trading it publicly. They probably going to make it private. Who knows what's going on? We don't know. We got to see. It's a bigger picture that's going on, and it ain't got nothing to do with drugs. Didn't nobody send that much firepower over there? Y'all didn't hear how much firepower was sent over there? Didn't y'all hear how much firepower they sent over there? Those big old ships that they sent over there? Y'all make it seem like y'all didn't hear what they sent over there. The big old ships. All that firepower. They sent all of that over there just for some drugs. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we're in another war. I think we're about to be in another war in the next 2 weeks. Another war. Okay. And if we're in another war, this is the president who said that we ain't supposed to be, and he wasn't going to keep us in wars. As far as I can see, the first year, we've been in 3-4 wars, and we ain't had no business being in 3-4 wars. What's going on? Y'all need to get your head in the game. It's shit that's going on. And we don't know what's going on. We need to pay attention. Y'all hit the like button, please, and thank you. Hit the like button, hate button, hit that, subscribe, do all those things. Okay? We had this kind of content every night. You need to be bringing them back so they can protect us. We got plenty of ships to protect us. We got plenty of ships. Ain't nobody about to protect. Ain't nobody about to attack us, because they would lose very much quickly. Okay, they moving all over space. They just took some of them from the Middle East, brought them over here. They done did it. We done had. This man has been in office a year, and we are back and forth fighting war after war. Defense, X, Y, Z. We need to every day. This is why I hated when this person won, because I knew we was gonna be in conflict and bullshit every day. Every day we got to listen to some bullshit, some more bullshit, deal with some more bullshit. 10 months. He been in office 10 months, 11 months, and we done been in a war. We done sent troops somewhere. We done shot at Iran. Iran. We done approved of a genocide or in freaking Gaza. It's too much. It's too much. This president is doing too much. And we just can't be going back and forth with this president like this. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I can't wait. I can't wait till everybody decide we on it. Yeah, okay. Only a zombie would think so. But it is what it is. It is what it is. You all like, share, subscribe if you like the video. We have content like this every evening. Every evening. I appreciate y'all. Please look at the news, because any day now we will be having an invasion of Venezuela. I'm just telling you. If you ain't heard it before, you heard it from me. If you ain't heard it before, you heard it from me. So please like and share the content, because I think we're about to go to war in the next week or two with Venezuela. If not, we ain't at war right now. I think we finna go. And I think it's soon enough, because Rand Paul is on TV saying, you ain't told us nothing about going to war. Okay. Yeah, we sick of you Republicans. That's for damn sure. We sick of y'all for damn sure. Yes, this is a lot. Past 10 months, topsy-turvy, back and forth. You don't know where to look. You don't know where to look. You don't know what to see. You don't know what to believe. We don't know what to believe. You go to war with Iran. You team up with Israel. You approve of the Gaza, Palestinian, what's happening in Palestine. Now we going to war in Venezuela. You breaking our house down, our house at the White House. You destroying half our house at the White House. You not following the rule of law. You kicking brown people out of the country. People ain't safe in their neighborhood, their house. No. It's just too much shit going on. And the food stamps should have been dispersed, but the president stopped from being dispersed. It's just too much stuff going on. And we don't like him like that no way. So it's really double troubling. You a shitty president, and we don't like what you're doing. But it is what it is. Hit the like button, share button, subscribe button, do all those good things. We have content like this every day. You love Trump. That ain't everybody. That ain't everybody. It just is what it is. Just is what it is. Love y'all.